It's like any other day of probably. Friday, yeah. And I normally don't work Friday afternoons. My son goes to All City on Friday.
Matt Reserve Court's there too, huh?
Is this the same reserve? Is it Mitch's?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm with, Jay.
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Looks like it.
Mitch worked.
I know I've seen you around it, and things, but.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good kid.
5 years and.
It's a problem here. I
Yeah,
think everybody else is coming.
it's one of those, it's been a long time, but also I think it's been my 5
They
years.
don't want to find another night to do it.
What?
If they don't show up, we'll have to do it some other night.
What?
Yeah, and then by the time I learn something, I think I have to down and law changes or policy changes or. But. Yep. Turn it up. Look, I get that minimum loss. I'm secure. I'm a foot.
Ha. Yeah, it's for the cracks in the kettle thing, the spout. Yep.
Okay, now
Just curious.
You talk around here, you have to send it over. You can look at it. Shot. So.
sparse.
We don't anticipate that.
Oh, sure enough. Why is that?
I don't know, the clock is fast.
Spare me about 5 minutes. Nope. Thanks. Sure. About day ain't over yet.
So,
that's what I go by. Mine just died. We have 7 o'clock yet?
1 minute.
6:59.
You invite your brother down?
No, I made him stay away.
You're good.
Call to order.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming tonight. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Mayor, we have one requested change to move the, under new business. We would move the Lennox Area Development Corporation Economic Impact Report to the first item under new business, and move the Stockwell presentation to the second item under new business.
All right. I'm good with that. Chad?
We probably need to discuss our November meeting, first November meeting, is that on Veterans Day?
Yes.
So we want to reschedule that tonight if we.
I think we can actually do it right now. So we should add that under new business.
We'll just do that right after Wayne.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Chad Wolf, Jackson, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. We have an approved agenda. Visitors to be heard. Are there any, see none? We'll move on to the next section. Time to open up a public hearing for the Lennox Comprehensive Plan. I would declare at this time the public hearing is open.
Okay. So, I don't have a whole lot to say about this. I hope you've all had a chance to read through your plan. This plan is something we've been working on for a while in different parts, but bringing it all together with the new task force started back in May, when I sat down with city staff and the mayor. We got a task force together to kind of assemble the draft comprehensive plan through a series of work sessions. This task force included representatives from the planning commission, city council, school district. I believe we had some rural residents in there, some other residents. Mayor West, am I missing like any major groups? I don't think so.
No, I think that's pretty.
So then, through the series of work sessions, I feel like we did a lot of really good discussion. I think we set up a really good vision for the city, kind of a vision from, what you see to what you don't see, making it a nice time to live from birth to retirement or through retirement, and from what you see to everything underground. Plan last month was recommended forward to you by the planning commission. And that's kind of where we stand now. Do you have anything else? Any questions of me? Feel free to take those, I guess.
I know.
No, I think a lot of good work went into the development of this plan, and I thank you for spearheading it. I got to sit in on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the county the other day, and I think our plan dovetails very well with the county's plan. I think that I'm well pleased with the group, the work the group put in it, and the end product. If there's nobody else to be heard, I will declare the public hearing closed and we'll move on to the resolution to adopt it. If you would, Nate?
You wanna go with the resolution?
Yep.
We have that under new business.
Sorry.
Yep.
I always like to jump guns when I get excited. All right, thank you. Moving on then, we have the minutes for October 15th, 2019, regular city council meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Jackson, Brock. All right, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Claims.
Motion to approve the claims.
Jackson, motion.
Second.
Billy, second. Discussion?
I just have a question on one that I have for the band travel reimbursement.
Okay. That is for, let's see if I can get this right. So when, people come from Sioux Falls to play in the band, they get mileage. And so, we got down to the end of the budget year and there was still 600 in there, so they asked for that mileage.
So in a discussion that we had a couple of years ago,
Right.
Yeah. So this is just the standard mileage,
Right.
what that they get paid.
The 40.
I was just trying to figure out what the notes were on the,
Oh, she sent me all the stuff that she came up with and how she came to that conclusion.
okay,
So I put it all in there too.
that's my only question. If I needed to look into the notes anymore.
Not really.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? We'll go with the roll call vote. Chad Wolf.
Aye.
Chad Riley.
Aye.
Billy.
Aye.
Jackson.
All right.
Brock.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Claims are official. Down to reports. Library report.
Audra Fuller, our library director, wasn't able to make it tonight, but she did do a written report. You can see that in your packets. Like she's talked in the past about the Android tablet we received. That seems to be working pretty well. They set it up, looked like a couple of weeks ago and not had a single interruption to it, so that's a good sign. They will be closed for Veterans Day on the 11th of November, and for Thanksgiving they'll follow that same schedule that we usually follow with the city or with the state. So closed on Thursday and Friday this year. They've had a couple of movie afternoons since the last update. They have another one coming up this week, Wednesday for early out for common planning. And we'll look forward to some of the same kinds of events over the Christmas break. Next week they have a summer showcase in Sioux Falls, so we attend this every year to basically interview performers for our summer meeting program. So once we get back from that, once Audrey gets back from that, they'll start working on their summer sign up for next year, similar to what we did this year. Working on some webinars and her homework for the State Institute. Did receive the LACF grant. I think she talked about that last time. I was able to get a fair number of books with that, as well as some extra savings. Been seeing quite a few students swing by and work on some of the STEM items after school, so that's been engaging. Quite a bit of kids for story time in October, 64 kids. I'm not sure if that's, if there are any repeats on there or not. I don't believe there are. We'll have 2 story times in November, and I know that she is always looking for the next story time reader. So if you haven't signed up, feel free to do so. Otherwise, Jeremy has to do it in November. He may have just learned that. Book club will meet one more time this fall, reading a book, and they're planning a holiday open house in December, so please stay tuned for that announcement.
Thank you. Motion to approve the report.
So moved.
Second.
Chad Wolf, Chad Riley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks again for the report, Nathan. Ambulance report, Alan.
Thank you, Council. You should all have your paperwork in your packets there. We're staying right on what we've been doing. This month is no different, we're approaching that same number for the month. All your reports have your calls in there, and we are on exactly the same projected number as we were last month. It just seems to be the way of the land right now. Since the last time we were here, we also got a community fund grant, which we used to buy new thermometers for both the ambulances, which are with protocols and sepsis. That's one of the things that thermometers that are cheap just don't work. So we have spent some money and got some good ones in the ambulances. Also working towards our fundraiser, which will be in February again this year. So putting money towards some different equipment, some training stuff. This weekend is our annual conference, so we have, I believe, 7 of us from our crew that'll be going to conference up in Aberdeen. And also last month, we talked about some of the surveys that we were getting back from people. I took patient information off of them, and I'll leave this with Nate, so if you guys want to take a look at it. This is what we've received back. We haven't received a whole lot back yet, but here's what we've got. So,
My understanding is you're sending them out regularly, just.
they go with every patient every patient other than like a Good Sam or assisted living. We don't give them to them because it's a different demographic, but otherwise every patient gets one of the forms.
Thank you.
They use that as.
You can always use more.
Or use more.
Yeah, we've got 2 on probation right now. We just pulled 1 off of probation, so that's awesome. We got another person on. But yeah, always looking for more EMTs and drivers. So,
Drivers.
From our, I think it was a couple months ago, everything's kind of a blur, but, when we talked about the uncollected or the unpaid bills that we had, did we put something in place to try to collect those?
Kathy's
ourselves?
working on doing a collection policy, or we put together a collection policy, and she is working on doing collectibles. These can probably.
AAA is
Triple
where,
A,
yeah, is
also.
where we're gonna do it.
Yeah. So,
And then we just sell those balances to them and then they collect them?
She is going to notify them of the, balances that are outstanding, and then, I'm assuming they're gonna give us a report. So I don't think they buy them, they basically try to collect them, they take their commission off of it and send us what they receive, or, the balance.
And do we have any projections on what we think we can collect?
Not at this point. I kinda asked her, she was gonna get everything, ready to go, so maybe I can have something for next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
One thing that we do wanna point out is where the ambulance is this year versus where they're budgeted to be for a loss. Through last week, their loss for the year is just under 24,000. So, basically through third quarter. We expect that they'll probably end up around 30,000 loss for this year. We budgeted around a $70,000 loss, so significant improvement. Even though our numbers are going up, our revenue is climbing at a better rate, so.
in that last week prior, we actually had 17 calls, 13 of which were billable. So that helps.
Sure.
That really does help.
And I don't wanna make money, I just wanna be as close
I
as
hear
we
you,
do.
I get it.
Absolutely.
So,
So good work.
also, one thing, I just saw Nate's tablet there, we've also been gifted a tablet, to start using in the ambulance. It's kind of a prototype to go forward, because we wanna get, so we can do some real-time reporting. As we're sitting with the patient, we can write the thing, and we can write our reports coming home, so we've got it right done, taken care of right away, which gets our bills in a little quicker as well, and hopefully gets payment back sooner as well. So if this one works well, we'll probably purchase one next year for the second ambulance. And we've got that second auto load that we will be getting. The sirens grant that I talked about a while back has not even gone to appropriations yet. So who knows how long that'll take for it to even comes up for us to apply for. But after the first of the year, we're gonna apply for the municipal league grant, which we had for the first one. It'll give us some savings on our second auto load. So we'll get that second one installed after the first of the year, hopefully.
And they're 25,000 feet?
And they're pushing 30.
30?
Yeah, but by the time you get that grant, it puts it around 23, 24, somewhere in that area.
That's what's left.
That's what we would pay. Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't take a lot off, but it does take some off. It helps. So, and we've got that money put aside for that auto load, so it is paid for.
How did you do that?
Fundraiser.
Is that,
The fundraiser we do every February with the squad.
what's the name of that group? The ambulance squad?
The ambulance squad, yeah.
Okay.
So,
And that's your nonprofit arm? And the sole purpose of that is to fundraise, to buy equipment?
fundraise and then just crew stuff.
Awesome.
Last year we raised just over $20,000, so. Any questions from you guys?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the report,
So moved.
Second.
Billy and Chad Riley. All in favor?
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carried. Thank you again. Moving on to old business ordinance 600.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance, we discussed this last meeting. Was suggested that we go back, do a little more research and redraft a little bit. So going back, this ordinance was requested, or was crafted at the request of the mayor as well as the encouragement of members of the city council, several members of the city council, as an important control on public dollars. When we first presented this, we did make two revisions with the one you have in front of you, so this is still a first reading. The first clause that we added was that this will apply to nonprofits that have or are projected to receive over $5,000 in public funds. Those organizations may include the Development Corporation, Volunteer Fire Department, the Health Pool of South Dakota, Lewis and Clark Regional Water System, and Lincoln County Economic Development. The second clause makes clear that this applies to nonprofits that are organized under Section 501 of the Internal Revenue Code, or those who have simply incorporated as a nonprofit corporation with the state of South Dakota.
And those listed there are just examples, right?
They're just examples. We did poll the last 2 years worth of organizations that received over $5,000, and those ones that were readily apparent. Some that we could add to that, just depending on their actual status. We're not sure about South Dakota Retirement System. That could be a nonprofit, though we're not quite certain how they're organized yet. So we have issues like that. Health Pool, we believe, is a nonprofit as well.
Housing authority could fall in there.
It could, yes. Though I don't know that we've, we certainly paid the note on pathways this year, so that would qualify as assistance under the ordinance.
As it's written, it's not defining any one organization.
Correct.
It's anybody requesting over that amount.
On the housing authority, I think there's some health insurance. They're eligible for health insurance through the city, but we do not pay the premium. So, those kind of things would have to be figured out.
I had some questions that came to me, and it simply would also include like the ambulance.
It could. I don't know that we give any money to the ambulance service. And we look at our vendor list, I don't think it shows up on our vendor list. Because it is a city department, and it's funded under the city's umbrella. Alan talked about the auto lift, that's something that the fundraisers pay for equipment that the city uses. Now, I don't know if we own or insure that equipment off the top of my head,
But it will be looked at.
It's attached to the ambulance, I'm sure we do.
Right.
But we're not giving them money, they're giving.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. This is just the first reading.
Correct.
We'll leave it at that and consider the first reading complete unless there's any more questions or concerns.
Do you, the last piece of that, the city makes that board accepted or board approved financial statements in lieu of a completed independent audit? Is that something that you feel you wanna keep that in there, or you just wanna make this hard line? That's just like another option, right? I mean,
It is.
to give those people another,
I would certainly prefer an independent audit. That would be my preference. That being said, I receive regular, monthly financial statements of the Development Corporation when I attend their meetings. Lewis and Clark, I'm on their board, so I see those financial statements.
Well, they're all online, I'm sure the Health Pool of South Dakota,
More
Lewis and
likely.
Clark,
Yeah.
Lincoln County, that's all online. I mean, you can just pull those, you can just go to their website and pull them typically.
Yep.
In fact, anybody can go and pull them.
And we did put on there that the city may, not that the city will,
Right.
Or shall. That does give us some discretion in deciding, some nonprofits are more financially savvy than others. They don't necessarily require a CPA to do their books, but they're their systems may not just be very complex. So, you know, we don't necessarily want to accept, you know, handwritten notebook paper of a financial statement.
Right, well, it has to be.
There are some that are very detailed.
There's gotta be like, the fact that they can prove a board approved or accepted actual
Minutes
minutes
with
in the
it,
meeting and
correct.
all that other stuff,
Yeah.
which can be easier to attain than a full-on.
Right.
So I understand why it's in there.
Questions to be considered before I find the reading? All right. I'll declare that a first reading, and we will move on to old business. We're gonna start out with our manufactured home park license, 2019.
Thank you, Mayor. The city council approved a 90-day license earlier this summer for Dakota Avenue Apartments, LLC Manufactured Home Park. Chose not to renew that license in September. At the October 15 regular meeting, city council opted to reconsider that license at tonight's meeting. So the issue here is the owners of that park have made considerable progress in recent weeks at improving the conditions of that park. They've now gone above and beyond what was initially required and are removing 2 additional homes that just simply need to be demolished. Our recommendation would be to motion to approve manufactured home park license for Dakota Avenue Apartments LLC.
If it's approved, is it a year from today?
All manufactured home park licenses expire at the same time, so it would expire next summer.
And we have talked about putting a little more teeth into looking over those properties every 3 months or going through some type of inspection, correct?
Yes.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Motion by Brock, second by Chad. Riley, discussion.
And that's gonna be proper, that's gonna be a standard for all the mobile home parks, correct? Are there,
I generally drive through them
right,
once a week anyway.
yeah, and if they're out of compliance, do we have a protocol for what we're doing on that deal? Like, let's say they fall out of compliance, which is a possibility.
Yeah.
And in the past, as far as I can read through minutes and everything else, nothing was ever done.
Yeah.
You just let it go.
I think what I intend to move forward with in terms of in compliance or out of compliance is no different than our code enforcement policies and procedures. We would probably follow those. It will probably be a bit less formal because we have direct lines of communication to the owners.
Sure.
You know, I can easily call up any of these owners and say, or their managers and say, hey, saw this is gonna be an issue, can you take care of it in the next couple of weeks? And that generally works out well.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion, we've had discussion, we've had second. All in favor?
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries. License has been approved. 2019 asphalt repair financing package.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, I think everybody got the handout in their packets. After looking at, the amount and
Thank you.
basing our thoughts on, what we're receiving in interest on our money, I think Nate and I both agree that, just using the money that we have to pay for the repairs is gonna be a better decision, I think, than trying to go through a loan and paying them 2.5% interest when we're not really receiving anything on our money the way it is. Going forward, I think we have a good plan in place, and we will build that reserve back up and kind of go from there.
So where are you taking the money from?
It's going to be from 211 and 212. If you look down below there, I show the 2 cash accounts that we're taking the money from, and I wanted to go ahead and get the balances out there so that you could see where we're at.
So it'll come from third penny and second penny.
So we're not touching the reserve funds at all?
No, we actually have that money in our balances. Our investments will stay where they are.
What do we have in reserves?
If you look over where it says, well, actually, that's not, we have a little bit more than that. I just put the Valley Exchange Bank investments on there. I did not put the, Great Western. Thank you. So we have about $900 in reserves. No, sorry, yes.
It's like 900.
Wait a minute. Okay, phew.
Stockville, thanks for coming.
You're no longer needed.
Yeah. I kind of forgot that little 1,000 part on there.
That one's still here?
So, I mean, devil's advocate now,
Right.
next spring, here we go, right? Which is I mean, it's a
Right.
possibility,
Right,
which we have to plan for.
right.
And again, I think it's important it tells the story of why we need to really start getting after streets done the right way. And I understand that it takes money, I understand, but we're not gonna be able to keep this
No,
up.
no, we
If
won't.
this happens next year and the year after, I mean, next year if this happens, we will have to go into our debt capacity. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
Not something we want to do, but we have to fix streets, we just don't have a choice. So, you know, we're at a point, and I'm sure Mitch will talk a little bit about this in the presentation from Stockville, but we're at a point where, you know, decades and decades of deferred maintenance on some of these streets and poor construction in the first place has left us at a point where we just don't have a choice.
right.
So,
And would you say where most of the frost heaves has happened, you're looking at number one, a terrible base, and all of them blotter?
A lot of them are.
Okay.
yeah.
I think that's important to get on, that's why the patches have been done when they went down below the base, made sure they put in a good base before they put on that. We'll see the difference in that for moving forward.
Need a motion on this, correct?
Yes.
Do we? Okay.
Oh, can't hurt.
All right.
What's that?
I'll motion to approve the financial package for the asphalt repair.
Motion by Chad Wolf,
Second.
second by Brock Rops. Chad Riley. Aye. Jackson.
All right.
Billy.
Aye.
Brock.
Aye.
Chad Wolf. Motion carries 5-0. All right, now we're gonna move to Wayne. Did I miss one?
No, I think you're good.
I hope so. And Wayne, if you can present from your chair, that's fine with me.
I appreciate it, thank you. I represent the Lennox Area Development Corporation tonight, LADC. I'm here to brief you on the economic impacts that the organization has had and will have on Lennox, our community. Started by the group of citizens for Lennox that had a vision for the future in 1966. In 1975, they incorporated so they have their own 501c3 rating, a nonprofit. They had the vision to buy property, to have land available when industry would want to come to Lennox. Two of the larger ones, of course, are Sioux Steel and Wilson Trail. Several of the smaller ones are also included. They are also assisted several businesses in getting started, built streets, water and sewer lines in Lennox. The LADC is funded by the city of Lennox each year. The names of the current and past members of LADC have only been left out because I fear of missing someone. There's a lot of community people involved and have been. Each one is a very valuable person for their time and talents provided. They have all been volunteers and none of them have been paid anything for their services. In the last 3 years and in the future, the following information is provided. One of the things in the last 3 years that LADC has done is if you have an existing lot in Lennox that you buy and you put in a foundation, once that foundation is, they will provide you $5,000 cash. incentive to build. And using that formula, 14 properties have been in Lennox and been assisted by this. The economic impact of that is using an average of $220,000 per home that has been moved in or built. That's $3 million economic impact on Lennox. 2 homes built by the high school and paid for by LADC, one in Meadows, one in North Poplar, come out at $750,000 economic impact. In the Meadows, we built the streets, put in the infrastructure, 2 new homes were built, 1 duplex was built, and 2 new homes have been bought the property and they will be built. The economic impact of that in the Meadows is $1.5 million. And of course, lastly, Country Acres, that everybody is familiar with, and the city has been working very well with us. Kelly Nielsen is developing, has bought that property, it is now, and working on the TIF for that. At a minimum of 130 homes being built there, and averaging out, that impact will be $30 million to Lennox, for a total of $35,500. $35 million, that's a big nut. And it's, you know, these are the things that the Development Corp has been doing with your monies provided by you and by the community. It is a pretty big impact, I think. And most people just don't realize, you know, what has been happening. The Development Corp has been doing something. It's kind of fun to be on it to see the growth of Lennox and the different things. Any questions on any of that?
I thank you, Wayne, for bringing that up. That is something I think needed to be brought out to the community, what is happening with the Development Corporation, the movement that's happening, the forward progress. Like you said, not a lot of people are fully aware of the strides that have been made, especially in the last couple of years.
You still have commercial properties you're trying to move yet too, correct?
Pardon?
You still have commercial properties
We
out in the
do
industrial
still have
park?
2 out in the industrial park. They, we have some interest in them, but nothing hard, so we aren't reporting anything there. I think it's important that the Development Corp works closely with the city, and we really appreciate Nate attending our meetings and being part of them, giving us feedback, and we him. A couple things on that, or excuse me, anything else on the economic impact?
Do you, just one thing, do you, is there a plan, kind of a vision, or what do they have a vision or priorities in terms of, like, kind of the next step? I mean, something Lennox has been missing forever compared to other communities our size, and part of it is because we're this close to Sioux Falls. It's just the commercial industry and our tax base is so low, and the residents have to pay most of that because of, we just don't have the big corps. Is there a mission or vision of the Development Corp to kind of focus on industrial or commercial, or no?
Well, can't say that it's one thing. Just look at the country acres up here that is being developed, and the economic $30 million there alone. But bringing those people in, there will be more need for other industries. We have south of town, Gene Cooper has a property, 80 acres of industrial land that he would like developed, and it's already been annexed into the city. And it's already gone through a process of, there's no floodplains on that property. The Development Corp is, what's their plans? Well, along with that, you just went through your comprehensive plan. I just wanted to mention that no input was asked of the Development Corp from LADC or anybody from LADC be on that board.
Was it Chad Conway?
Chad Conway.
Chad Conway.
Well, if you look at your topic report, it says Chad Conway representing the school.
Okay, but he represented both.
I don't know, I wasn't at it, but.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
I I felt that the LADC should have been represented on there. Along with it, you have a housing study that you had reported, and I think there's a big need in that. I was part of the push originally for that to be done. And also reminded the city this time that the same group was doing it again, and once again, they did not include Long Creek Park in the first one or the second one. And last year alone, we moved 10 new homes into the park. And that, I think, is a little bit of an impact on housing in Lennox. And Gene has just spent $400,000. I just came from there. They finished new streets and repairing streets to the tune, like you say, of $400,000. It'll open 20 more lots. But there again, they were ignored in the report. And I think your report needs to be questioned on certain things, because that is, our part, what other things were missed.
I agree, Long Creek is a vital part of this community. It provides an area of big need, and you guys have been working and doing things the right way out there. And that report, they should have talked to you.
Well, the inspection, I think, is very important, and it happens every year. I have no problems with that. I, for at least 4 years, have pushed that it be done earlier, so when there is a problem, there's time, I would say at least 2 months before it expires, the inspection should be done, so there's time to address anything that has been a problem. And, that type of home is what some can afford. My last new home I sold, a 60-bay, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, $60,000. And, a $60,000 brand new home is pretty nice. It's 1,100 square feet. It's quite livable, because I live in one that size. But I think it's an integral part of Lennox, and the mobile home parks need to be kept up to date, I agree, and inspected.
Good point.
Well, as far as the inspection goes, I think the burden of that falls on whoever's managing the park. I mean,
No, it isn't. Your inspection, and you come around once a year.
yeah, we come around once a year, but to give you time to get everything fixed, if everything is kept up to snuff, we should be able to inspect it the day before.
You can, my part.
No, I know, I'm just saying, I think the burden falls on whoever in charge of the park to keep it up all the time, not just during the inspection time.
That's why we have a manager living in the park, and some of my residents would disagree, but we like to keep it nice. We have restrictions on what we allow into the park, what type of home, what type of people. And we follow it, we try to, we're going to screw up someplace. But if there is something, and Nate says he drives through, that's fine, and sees something, I want to know about it.
It falls in heart with what we talked about previously with David doing the 3 months and.
Yeah, the ordinance revision that's in front of the city attorney actually moves that timeline a couple ways. So it does give more time.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, Mike?
Thank you for your time. I think the development corp is a major part of the city. And Brock, I don't have exact plans. We're working on what our next step will be. We had one in mind, but I think you changed that tonight by approving the park license. We had visions of possibly putting that into homes, stick homes. But we'll find some others. And, everybody says, oh, you get so much money every year. But if we need to have a little stockpile so that when something pops up major that we can do, we can buy it and not have to go borrow. And which we did. We had to borrow some to get this off the ground up the north. We did, but that came to fruition, and that has all been paid off, and it's going to be a big future for Lennox. But we have to have some funds available in our bank. We we don't get crazy with them. We try to, maintain that, or I do, that we spend it on the right things. But there are some things that if anybody has ideas, we're welcome to you coming to our meetings and sharing them with us. And I didn't see if that's something we can develop or would like to.
And those meetings have been very productive, very open and transparent, and been well kept abreast of how those dollars that we appropriate to the Development Corporation are used to get financial statements every month.
Plus, we are having an independent audit done.
Yeah.
We plan to have had and we plan to keep doing it annually.
You guys have done a good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think over the last couple of years especially, the communication and stuff has improved, so, and on both parts.
Motion to approve his report.
Motion by.
Second.
Second by Jackson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. November meeting.
Veterans Day is the 12th?
11th,
11th.
12th is the
You're
Tuesday.
looking for the 12th, is that what?
I
It seems to be
just
what we've been
assume
doing.
that's what you've been doing in the past.
Yeah. I'm fine.
We'll also have this pop up in December, the second meeting in December. We don't necessarily have to decide that tonight, but we would actually push to move that a week. Because we will have, at that meeting, we'll have to do our supplemental appropriation, and that'll be one day before the end of the calendar year. So it'll be very useful to have that meeting a week later instead of moving it to the Tuesday.
So it's changing.
We'll cover that.
Sure.
All right. So we're gonna move it to Tuesday instead of Monday. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Tuesday it is. All right. Now, we are at Stockwell Engineering.
Take just a minute to sit up here very quickly.
You want the lights off?
We'll see what it, I think, can we turn the roll off there? Will?
There you go.
Slow fire.
This is the first day of school.
It must be a crime.
They still look happy.
Sun's gonna rise,
I think it's such a
Okay. Yours.
You just hit yours. Okay, I think we're ready. Wanted to start off just thanking you guys. We have a presentation here to present ourselves here. Just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to allow us to present. It's been a while since we've had that opportunity, so we're looking forward to this, to tell you a little bit about our company, some of the services that you guys aren't always involved with, those types of things. Got a quick agenda here, and I brought John and Dexter here with me. But I think you guys know who we are for the most part, and anybody in the audience. I'm Mitch Mergen, I'm with Stockwell Engineers. And we have here John Brown, who's the president of Stockwell Engineers as well. And we have Dexter Mark from our office, who's one of our on-site inspectors, actually, of the project that's ongoing right now. We have a short agenda and presentation, and then we wanted to get into questions and answers at the end. But we want to go through and talk a little bit about our staff and principals involved with our projects. We want to talk a little bit about we've been here 10 years as a city engineer, and we want to talk about the last decade, and we want to talk about the next decade as well. We want to talk about some goal setting for the next 10 years and an approach to planning projects out. And at the end, John's going to give an overview of some of these other services that we offer. To begin with, I wanted to talk just a little bit about my history with Lennox and John's history as well. John and I act as the principals in charge of you guys' projects. I've always been the representative out here. I attend all your meetings. I myself am a partner in the company. I have been for about 4 years. I have 15 years of municipal engineering experience on projects similar to the Central Basin project that's ongoing. I'm a licensed professional engineer in South Dakota. I act as your folks' city engineer after 10 years. I also act as the City of Hartford's engineer. You can see a list of relevant experience as it pertains to the City of Lennox. Of those 10 years, I've been involved with every job that's gone forward within Lennox. All the Central Basin projects, phase 1, 2, and coming 3, the Main Street project, the Highway 17 project, the comprehensive plan that we did years ago. I also do that maybe you guys don't see as much as a lot of plan and plat reviews for the city. I've been involved with capital improvement plans, and I included this one statistic at the end. I've gone and estimated, and I attend probably a meeting a month for the last 10 years, so I've probably been in attendance of 100+ meetings, council meetings, over those 10 years, and that not including planning and zoning meetings along the way, and other meetings such as that. But anyway, that's what I've been involved with. John over here is, again, the president of the company. He has 28 years of municipal experience as a licensed engineer in the state of South Dakota. He acts as the city engineer for a number of towns. Here we have Brandon and Harrisburg listed. Brandon being 2004 to 2018, and Harrisburg 2014 to 2018. Those two towns just recently hired in-house engineers. We still do a lot of work with them. But going on, we have Hartford, Worthing, Marion, Humboldt, Larchwood. So there's a few that we didn't have room to include on here as well. But relevant experience that John brings to the table is his experience with traffic engineering, wastewater treatment and water treatment and distribution, drainage engineering, parking lots and site designs, and just general city engineering consulting. We have here just a list of support staff. We have about 25 people in our office in Sioux Falls. We also have a small office in Yankton where we have three staff down there. I wanted to present this because these are all people that have worked on projects for me in the past. You don't always see these faces, but they are helping with a lot of these projects. A project like the Central Basin project, there's probably 10 people in our office that touch that project, that do some part of that project. And so, like I said, these are some of the faces that are in our office that are working on all those jobs. Dexter is out there now on the Central Basin Phase 2. Tyler was out there early in the year with them when things were really busy. Ross Kukta was our Central Basin Phase 1 inspector back when that was going on. John Fisher was inspector for Main Street. I wanted to point out Gard Rops and Matt Mazurek. They're both Lennox natives, I guess, and they've been involved with projects as well. Heidi Condon goes back as far as the comprehensive drainage study that was put together for her. She did a lot of work on that. And she continues to help us with even these projects, helping us size storm sewers and those types of things with our street projects. David Locke was involved with the Western Master Park Plan and the Highway 44 Recreational Trail Project. He's our landscape architect in-house and helps with a lot of those types of projects. Joel Whitlock is our lead land surveyor and construction staker, and has probably been a part of every project that you have done to that regard. I want to talk about just the last decade, I'm calling it. So we started in 2010 is when we were appointed as city manager, so it's been about 10 years. And I really kind of took the time whether I wanted to present this slide or not, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the city leadership over those 20 years and what we've seen. I mean, obviously, I think it's no secret there's been a lot of change at City Hall. In those 10 years, I myself have worked with 5 city administrators, 6 finance officers, 3 public works directors, 2 mayors, 19 council members. Okay, so that's been great. We've really enjoyed working with the community and seeing all these faces and involving ourselves. We've been blessed that we've had this opportunity to work with everybody like we have. Having that much change does create some challenges. You know, there's a lot of opinions, a lot of personalities that come with those changes. But I put this up there not to necessarily be critical of that, but I wanted to just express that even through these last 10 years of change, we've really gotten a lot of work still done. And we felt we've done a good job of just keeping that momentum and keeping those projects moving forward. Okay, so this is a list of the projects that we've done. And you know, I feel that all these projects have been successful projects. You know, every project's a little different. Every project has a different contractor. Every project has a different element that we have to deal with. There's always some issues with a project. But at the end of the day, we feel that these projects got done. They've held up well. They stood the test of time. And we're pretty proud, and I think the city of Lennox should be proud of what they've accomplished over those 10 years as well. This is simply a map that illustrates all those projects. It's a little hard to see, but the areas in green are all the projects that were completed. Some of these this is a utility job that got done, and a storm sewer, or a water main job that got done there. But overall, when you really look at it at a glance, there's been a lot of work that's happened over those 10 years. So I think it's important not to lose sight of that. So we want to talk about moving forward into the next decade. We've laid out these 6 items that we feel, you know, is our approach, if you want to call that, to advise, to guide you guys through the next 10 years. And those steps are basically evaluating future projects, improving maintenance on projects that we have completed and are going to complete, updating policies, develop the GIS system. That's becoming an important tool for a lot of communities, so we want to start developing that with you. Improve wastewater treatment, and overall improve community involvement. Okay, so we're going to talk about each one of these a little bit. On the evaluating future projects side, we feel we've got a good basis of you guys' infrastructure. Okay, this is, on the left side, we have basically the list of items that we've been involved with over the last 10 years. We did a comprehensive drainage study. That study still holds up well today. We reference it a lot when we're doing these projects. Water facilities plan has been completed. Wastewater facilities plan has been completed. This item on its own, we're going to talk a little bit, it needs some updates, because it is getting to be outdated. Televising sanitary sewer, the televising reports that are in here are still 15 years old, so that's one thing we want to talk to you about updating. Okay. We conducted a manhole sanitary sewer survey years ago. We've done smoke testing. The city's done their own smoke testing as well. So we feel we've done a lot of exploration that way and had a good basis of those results. GIS database, we've actually had developed this, and a lot of people don't know that we did that years ago when Greg Stack was in his position. I want to say it's 6 years ago or so, but we developed a database for him to utilize. That was back when GIS wasn't as shareable. It's come a long ways in that amount of time. And so we want to build on that database that we already have in-house. Compiling reports. If you go all the way back to when Roger was in this position, we spent a lot of time with him just making copies of as-builds and records and getting them in our office so we had them for reference. So we've got a lot of that stuff compiled too. We've shared that with city staff, and if we can't find something down here, we share what we have, and they've shared back and forth. So CIP and rate studies, we've been involved with those in the past with you two. We've developed CIPs over the years, we've developed rate studies to help with your funds and whatnot, so we're programming the right amount of funds for the projects that we want to get done. Going to the next steps, part of evaluating future projects, we strongly feel that there's still some work to be done on evaluating your infrastructure, and it mainly rests in pavement evaluation and investigating the sanitary sewer further. Okay. We feel that pavement condition survey is needed. We've talked about that in the past, and I think we've all discussed that to an extent. We're going to talk about that a little bit further in the slides. Investigating sanitary sewer. Again, those television reports are roughly 15 years old now. We want to probably camera everything again and make sure that we understand where all the deficiencies might be in that sanitary sewer system. Conducting flow monitoring. I have another slide on that too that we'll discuss. But once we get through that investigation period, we want to identify more projects. We want to update the CIP, just like we have in the past in the rate studies. And we want to be monitoring and tracking that infrastructure as we build it, as we're designing it through the GIS tools that we have. To start with the pavement condition survey. Okay, I provide this graph, and I think Jeremy's actually got a slide on this in his report too he's going to discuss. But we want to make sure that we're providing the correct maintenance for these projects when we get them done. So what this slide is showing is basically a pavement condition curve, okay? So, and this is time at the bottom here, going to the right. So at the time the pavement's installed, it's at its best condition, okay? And it only goes down from there as time goes on, okay? What we want to try to do as we're, that time is going on, we want to make sure we're improving that pavement as we go and putting and doing preventative maintenance on it. That being seal coats, like you have done in the past. And you can see here the recommendation in the industry is to do those every 7 years. Okay. After about 21 years, the industry recommends mill and overlay. Okay. So that's just basically a little bit more significant project than just the seal coat. After that, you go back to your seal coats every 7 years is the recommendation to continue that seal coat maintenance program. And if everything is done, and then we've got good base and everything underneath there, we feel we can get those asphalt roads to last 45 years of useful life. Okay. Concrete streets, we also evaluate those. You guys don't really have any concrete streets, so I wasn't going to dive into that. But there's similar treatments that you can do to concrete streets to rejuvenate the pavements.
Tell me what, when you're looking at concrete streets opposed to pavement, what criteria do you look at making that determination?
A lot of times, concrete versus asphalt, we look at the life cycle analysis. Okay, so we look at how much it costs to construct it from day one, how much it costs to maintain it, how much traffic we're going to have on there, what kind of traffic we're going to have, and that all those things indicate whether we do a concrete street or whether we do an asphalt street. Okay. Does that answer your question, Chief?
So, some of the other things that are evaluated on concrete versus asphalt are the joints themselves. So a lot of times you see on a concrete pavement, you see joints being cut out and repaired. That's actually a preventative maintenance. When those joints start to fail like that, that buys you 5 to 10 more years on that overall pavement condition. So those are things that you just look at on a concrete pavement versus asphalt. And like Mitch said, the life cycle analysis is very important if you're evaluating from the beginning of concrete versus asphalt. I mean, it's very important that you evaluate that from its full life of 50 years so that you can really truly compare those costs. Because with concrete, if it's properly designed and properly maintained, should last longer. It's a lot more upfront cost, but in theory should last longer.
See, that when we're looking at doing a long range of stuff, that's one of the things I see here that you have down for the pavement. But if we're going to be looking for the future and planning for it, what would it be? Why haven't we looked at, or should we look at concrete and how that applies to the streets like Boynton, where we have such heavy traffic?
Yeah, we sure can. And we have seen, even asphalt and concrete prices are changing every year, so it's something that's something we can sure look at. Boynton is the one that probably stands out to me, Tracy, as one, the first one where you would probably consider, concrete.
You know who you should talk to is, I'm sorry, Mitch,
Yeah, go ahead.
but Freeman, they got about a mile stretch in the middle of town that's all concrete. And they've gotta have some type of maintenance schedule or pricing on that, which is it's impressive. I mean, I couldn't believe it, but.
Yeah.
One of the things that we lack in data is traffic numbers. If you'll notice on the claims list this time, we actually purchased a traffic counter. We had it out on Boynton for about a week, so we've got data already starting. We can hopefully incorporate that into whatever GIS system we have, and I'll make decisions with more data.
Yeah.
When I look on here too, I see the laser scanning technologies that you put on there. Tell me about those and how you look.
Yeah, so we put the laser scanning technologies on here because you can, there's companies that offer that service to basically go around and they scan all your streets. And then they come back with a pavement evaluation that says, and basically grades your streets and says these streets are in good condition, these streets are in poor condition, and somewhere in between. We feel that at this stage, with your current streets, we feel this is a good option as you build streets and are monitoring those streets you built. We've already taken the time to inventory your existing streets out there, and I'm going to show you that. I can show you that now, I guess. We've already taken the time to inventory them. I've driven every street along here, and I basically gave them a rating, a simple A, B, C, or D rating. Okay, and that's the result of this survey. You can see here, overall you have about 15.2 miles of streets that you maintain. And based on my survey, we had 2.7 of those miles we gave them a grade A, okay, 18%. 2 miles grade B, 13%. 2.5 miles grade C, 16%, and 8 miles grade D, 53%. Okay. Now I didn't really want anybody to focus on this number so much. I mean, there's a lot of work to do in town. I think we all know that. I think you should be focusing on this number because if you look at the map, these are all the projects that we've done in those 10 years. Okay. So in those 10 years, we've roughly improved 20% of your street infrastructure, and that's impressive. Okay. We need to keep maintaining it, and that's what we really need to focus on is making sure we're doing what's right for those streets and maintaining them for the future. Okay? Yeah, we know there's a lot of work to do here, but I think we've accomplished a lot too here. Yeah.
You've been here since 2010, and obviously far before I got here. Was this ever brought up in a conversation just on a street map? Why now in 2019?
Yeah.
I don't know if this has ever done before, but I question as to why it wasn't done before. Not necessarily that it's the engineer's fault, but why we wouldn't have contemplated this. And this is something that should be done always.
I think, we're not going to go back to this. I think it has a lot to do with this still. Because we have talked about these in the past. We have talked about with previous staff about doing these types of things. And it's just it hasn't come forward that way, I guess. Okay, so we're kind of done talking about the street side. I want to get into the sanitary sewer side. We understand that infiltration is a big challenge for Lennox. We want to update all the television reports like I was talking. We need to have a better understanding of the conditions of the sanitary sewer in a lot of areas, and we don't have that information available right now. So basically, we're proposing canvassing and retelevising everything, so we've got a good record of that. Okay. We also want to talk about conducting some flow monitoring. We've got 2 flow monitors of our own that we'd like to put in downstream manholes. If you know how your sewer works, all your sewer comes to one lift station right now. Okay, and you have flow monitors on there, so you can monitor what your flows are there, and you know that they're spiking at that lift station. You don't know what it's doing outside of that. You have 3 branches that basically come into that lift station. I want to start monitoring those 3 branches and see if we can isolate where that flow might be spiking. Okay? We might be able to get a sense of something there, we might find that it's all the same and it's coming in from every direction. But we don't know until we really start monitoring it, so I'd like to propose that, doing that in the spring as get a good base reading early in the spring before we would get a bunch of rain, and as we were getting those rains, monitor that flow. Okay?
Have we monitored that ever? I mean, the three branches or no?
Just based off lift station run times.
Yeah.
From the televising, from the flow monitoring, we're hoping to find out where our deficiencies lie, so we can map those deficiencies. Okay? So we can start plotting them on a map, and we can start trying to answer the questions of what projects we want to pursue. Okay? As we're mapping those efficiencies, we're going to be identifying projects based off of that, and we're going to be considering trenchless versus traditional methods. We've talked about that in the past too, and we want to make sure that that we understand what deficiencies we have and what areas that need to be repaired, so that we can consider the right practice for it. Okay, and that might be a lining project, that might be some sort of trenchless technology going in there. It might be more of a traditional methods depending on what else is around it. One thing I wanted to point out that we are sending, myself included and another staff member, there's training available this winter for us to become certified in trenchless methods for sanitary sewer. So I'm going to be attending those classes so I can educate myself a little bit further and provide that knowledge to you guys for these projects. Okay, so I wanted to get on to just, you've seen this before, but in a little bit different fashion. This is what we've always called our issues map. Okay, so as over the last 10 years, I make notes and I plot things out of where I know we've got issues. People that come to the council meeting, I put a note here. Here's Mr. Ballinger, I think was his name, that came down on from Elm Street and reported that he had some drainage issues down here. That got marked. Okay, so we know we got an issue down here. These are some low spots that I am aware of throughout town that are drainage issues. That's what these red circles are. The blue lines are from our reports, from our water report. So these are water main improvements that we're anticipating. The green lines are from the 15-year-old sanitary sewer videos, sanitary sewer reports that we know from back then. Okay? Again, that's what we knew at that time. We might find that there's more deficiencies throughout. Okay. The white areas again are all the streets that are in good condition. Okay. That A or B condition. Okay. Gone forward and laid out some projects that we talked about with past councils that I've heard about. So these are just my thoughts at this point, I guess, as far as different projects that we might be considering. First one on the list is Boynton Avenue. That's always been in the CIP. That's always been on every council's radar since I've been here. And I think the gist of it is really trying to make an improvement to your front entry. That's part of it. You also have some drainage issues along there that I know have been a problem that people have brought up. And with Countryside Addition going forward, I think there's a desire there to improve that corridor. A couple things important to point out with that job, and that's an arterial road for you guys. It's going to require some right-of-way acquisition. Okay, which just means you got to budget some time for those types of things. We want to make sure we're making good improvements to the drainage. A project like that, we need to plan 6 months for the funding, because we'll probably chase SRF, CBG, whatever it might be. We want to make sure we got enough time to chase that funding in 12 months to get the right-of-way design and go into construction. Okay? The next project I have on here is Main Street in Oriole. This is a project that I feel like we need to be focusing on sooner rather than later. Because this road here is not held up well to the traffic going along there, and it needs some improvements. We feel we've got a water main or a trench of some sort on that west side that is soft, is failing, causing the roadway to fail early. You can see it in this lane. You can't quite see it as well on Oriole, but if you get out and look at it, a lot of that pavement's alligator already. Okay, so I'm a little worryful if, when Sioux Steel comes and starts doing more of their operations, I'm worried if we get a lot of traffic on this road, we're gonna have some issues.
How old are those roads?
10 years.
They were built probably 2 years before we got here, so maybe 12
12
years, so.
Did we, because we had this discussion about this one night, about just like the thickness of that, and it should have been something, and it wasn't something, and
Yeah, we don't know for sure what the actual overall, design analysis that went into that. I know that was an industrial park that the Development Corporation put together,
right.
and started that planning, and, what those sections are, we've got those plans, but, obviously that didn't hold up, so whether the soil conditions weren't what they expected, or, the pavement itself was just.
I think that was an old slough in there.
Yeah, so there's obviously some conditions that weren't understood when they first went in there.
So basically, it's a design flaw.
I don't know, I'm not saying that. I don't
But
know,
I mean-
but I think there was certainly, some, whether there wasn't anticipated that much traffic or that much heavy traffic. I don't know where that issue may lie.
That's not a simple mill and overlay.
No, it isn't.
No, I
There's
agree.
actually a reconstruct we did
Yeah.
on a big portion of
And
it.
to really be able to identify some of those questions, what the fix is here, we probably need to do some of those soil borings that we talked about in the past. And we talk about soil borings everywhere, we don't necessarily need them everywhere, but we do need some strategic ones, I think, to understand some of these pavements a little bit better. So that was actually, I kind of went across that, but that is something that we want to propose with the pavement analysis. It's still some soil borings here. I'm going to move on to the next project, Prairie and Poplar Drive. That's this area right here. And if you go out there, that's a gravel road. We've got a good, we got a good handle on the drainage. We've got a good handle on the water. We don't necessarily know what the sewer looks like under there, but that'll come to televising reports. But this project just stands out to me because it's a gravel road that just is looking like it's ready to be paved. Curb and gutters in place. So that's why that project's on there.
Where's that at?
Oh, you know what? I'm on the wrong project. Sorry. Green, that was on the North Poplar Runnel.
Okay, I was gonna say Prairie's
Pointed
further
at the
south.
right one.
Yeah,
Pointed at the
sorry. Let me go back to Prairie and Poplar. That's this one down
Tell me the relationship between soil boring and laser scanning. Help me figure that out.
here. The relationship between soil boring and laser
Yeah.
scanning,
Yep.
they're independent of each other. Soil borings would be something that you would have like a geotech or a geotechnical
Yeah.
consultant go out and do, and you're basically drill a hole and you're
I got that, but the two technologies, you talked about laser scanning going on to go across the road surfaces. And then, so when would you use that as opposed to the soil sampling, the soil boring?
We would use them together. So the soil borings is going to give us an idea of what the section is through there, and then if we had a radar or a laser scanner, which we're not proposing at this time, we're proposing that down the road as you're making improvements. That would be utilized to monitor your the pavement condition.
Okay, so that's more of a monitoring tool.
Yes. Yes, it can be used as an evaluation tool also. We just feel that with a lot of the condition of your roads, I don't know that I need a laser truck going down there to tell me that they're shot. That's
I think that's the important part. To me, the laser is something that, when you start doing the laser, that's a $30,000 a year cost. $30,000 each time you do it, so you're gonna wanna do it every 3, maybe 4 or 5 years, so you can keep up on the condition of that pavement. So it's probably not something you wanna do every year. If you could afford to do it every year, you certainly, it'd be nice, but I don't think that's necessary. So, that pavement condition is just a condition of the existing surface. Like Mitch said, a lot of your existing streets are of water. We know the condition of them. And so we don't need to necessarily evaluate those to understand where they're at. And I think that said it all. I think the blotter, that was a great product back, 50 years ago for dust control. That was really what that was meant for. So for the most part, you had gravel roads that you applied a blotter over several years to just create, you know, a better pavement for, or a better surface, road surface for the people that live here, so they control the dust better. And, you know, over time, we just have better technology, better products now available to us, which is the asphalt and the gravel surfacing, so that we can actually build a better road that lasts even longer.
Prairie and Poplar was this area down here. We have a small drainage issue in that intersection. That valley gutter just doesn't drain well across there. We've investigated that in years past, and we feel a storm sewer in this intersection. And if we can extend that to serve that intersection and rebuild that valley gutter. To me, that's a smaller project, a maintenance type project that could be done.
You have a question?
We already talked about North Poplar and Romo Avenue. South Elm Street again was this stretch down here. We had a gentleman come and report to us that they had a drainage issue. There's actually a petition that was signed to have this street rebuilt. This looks like a simple project, but to really get that to drain appropriately, we gotta bring an outfall storm sewer from Long Creek up to there to really do that project right.
And if you look at this map, I mean, and I know this is getting into the weeds, I mean, there's, for some reason, there's like no storm sewer I mean, in that area of town, and I have no idea why,
Right.
but.
Well, it just comes down to back in those days when they were developing storm sewer, you just didn't see a lot of storm sewer in those projects. And nowadays, it's just more prevalent. West 4th Avenue again is another gravel road out here. We tried to do this project years ago. It got protested by the people along there. But that's still another project that we feel the water's good underneath it. The sewer's fairly new, so I would expect that we shouldn't have a lot of issues there. But we do need it, this doesn't show it, but we do need an outfall for that storm sewer as well. Because that storm sewer that comes in here is something to serve all these streets too. So we gotta make sure that gets done with a project like that.
How much protection would that offer, having that asphalt for
Versus
things underneath?
versus gravel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for the utilities underneath, it helps a lot. For just the roadway maintenance and the complaints and the drainage issues, it helps a lot with that too, obviously. Let's go to the next one. East 5th Street, this is the area over here where we patched that asphalt this year in front of Good Sam. Well, that driveway is low, it's always been low, it holds water a little bit. We're starting to talk to Good Sam about possibly extending the storm sewer up there. They're interested in maybe doing some curb and gutter work, but we're working through that right now with them a little bit. North Elm Street is this project here, and that, John and I were talking about it, when we first started 10 years ago, this was the first project that we were asked to do. Okay? It didn't actually include this stretch, it was this stretch up here. Included a segment, and I think a Brummel Avenue was in there too, okay? We had a contract to do that project, we did our survey, we got into the preliminary part of the design, and we found that we had a problem. We couldn't get an adequate storm sewer up here to serve this. The closest storm sewer was here on Academy and First. It was undersized, it was shallow, and it wasn't going to work for this. So we went back to the city at that point and said, we just don't feel that this is the right project to do at this time. We really need to really address these areas. We need to focus downstream and get an outfall established and get it constructed all the way through. That's really what drove all this back then, is that project. And I guess for us, we felt that was the right thing to do, is to talk to the owner about that and have that conversation. And at the time, everybody agreed, and that's when we started focusing down in this area. And you can see how much progress we've made. Now we're getting close to being able to ready to do that project. And this project becomes important because, and we really probably need to start down in this area, because we want to transfer all that elevation that we've gained through that section. We've gained a lot of elevation on the storm sewer, we've gained a lot of elevation on the sanitary sewer. We want to project that into here so we can serve this area better. Okay?
If we can't get it to drain like we want it to, is there a possibility of putting a lift pump in that?
You certainly can, but with the storm sewer, the way we laid it out from the start, from way down at the bottom, we laid it out so that it would work. And so that's important to understand. That was why we had to move down to that lower southwest corner, is to bring our storm sewer and our sanitary sewer at a deeper elevation so that we could service those areas, the north end of town. That was a you know, a decision that the council made based on our recommendation. You know, we would have loved to have been able to go forward with that project, but we just couldn't improve the drainage. Without doing the proper outfall and things like that, that was one of the things that was tough for us to come back, at that time was Justin Weiland, and just tell him that, sorry, we can't do this project. We don't think you should do this project now because we can't do it properly. And we feel that that was a big move to actually switch gears. And so we were able to now get that major storm sewer started at the lower end, and we're working our way up through town. So I think that's very important, that you've got a good basis to build off of those deep sewer and sanitary sewer.
So we're kind of done talking about these projects, and there's going to be more projects, you know, that'll come up with the televising and talking through city staff, and just, I'm sure you guys hear about different things. So, but when we start going down that road of laying and prioritizing, that's where we need a lot of feedback. Part of that process usually is the CIP process. Developing that CIP and going, having those conversations. Done that in the past. And then the other half of the CIP is the rate studies, making sure that whatever projects that are going to be pursued, there's enough funds being collected through the sewer fund, water fund, whatever it might be, to be able to do those projects. Okay. This is kind of fun. This is our monitoring and tracking infrastructure. We're plugging this through GIS. Okay. In your packets, you've got a QR code. You can pull out your phone, turn your camera on. We can all do it now if you want. But you pull it on, and it'll take you right to a direct link of the GIS that we have built tonight. And we're going to pull it up a little bit later just so you can see it here. Like I said, you just pull open your phone, take a snapshot of that, and it'll pull that right up. But this is similar to what it looks like. This is the pavement index that we put together that's already in there, that's live. We've got layers for sanitary sewer, for water, storm sewer. We've brought in the FEMA layers for the floodplains. We've got parcel data, so all these squares are direct connections to Lincoln County's parcel data, so you can click on them and see who owns what properties. We've got a layer for preliminary plans, which you only have one right now, is the countryside acres, but that's in there as well. We feel we've got a good start on that, and it's available to everybody to use now. So. I have a slide on updating policies. This is another thing we just want to help advise you through, is assessment policies, subdivision regs, design standards. We've already got to start on the subdivision regs and design standards. Nate's currently looking through them. We're going to be presenting those to probably the P&Z at some point, council this month, relatively soon. But we want to have those in place for when countryside's coming, because that's going to be one of the first preliminary plan that will go through this process. And right now, your subdivision regs, they just need a little work, in my opinion. So we've made improvements to those. The assessment policy, this is something that we went through a number of years ago, but just having that conversation of how are we going to approach these projects with, are we going to special assess them? Are we going to do a maintenance cost per foot? We don't know the answers to that right now, but that's part of the conversation as we move forward with these projects.
With that, I'm going to just talk a little bit about Stockwell and where we've been. Like Mitch indicated early on, we're a smaller company. We have two offices. We have an office in Yankton and one in Sioux Falls. And you know, from a footprint though, we feel like we touch a lot of the eastern part of the state. And from those projects that we work on, they involve municipalities, they involve agriculture, they involve all sorts of surveying and things of that nature, landscape architecture. The landscape architecture actually is impacted nationwide. We're doing projects on the East Coast, the middle part of the states, things like that. But our company is, although small, 32 people, I know Mitch mentioned 25, but we're a little bit bigger than that. But really what it amounts to is we're a We feel like, you know, a local company. We're involved heavily with the communities and with the different, I guess, the different charities and things like that. But from a service standpoint, municipal services, something that we do for you, like what we do for you in Lennox and these other communities, that's one of our bases of our company. We actually have built a lot of our company off of that. It's because we're representing communities such as yourself, Hartford, the Lennoxes, the Harrisburgs, the Brandons. We do a lot of work for the city of Sioux Falls. So we get a variety of projects from a municipal related standpoint. And that's really the basis of our company. We do a lot of transportation projects. So major arterial streets in Sioux Falls and other communities that we get involved with. And that's really why we bring all of those different disciplines together. The surveying, that we have to do the data collecting. We do the design for the street and the infrastructure, the landscape architecture, if there's a need for streetscape and things like that. So we can bring all of those elements together in those transportation projects and the municipal projects that you guys might need. Water distribution and treatment. More recently, in the last 5 years, we've implemented a wastewater and water treatment element to our services that we provide, as well as the distribution and the collection of sanitary sewer, as Mitch indicated. You know, communities, it's a lot about your water distribution and your collection system and your drainage and storm sewer, and that's really what we've tailored our company off of. The drainage analysis, as you know, Heidi did that master drainage study for you guys. That helps us every day when we're doing work here in town. And that major drainage study just helps us understand where the problem areas are, like Mitch had indicated. But then how do we implement that in these projects that we have to do? We want to make sure that we're covering all those bases. And those are important studies that we've done for you, and that's important that we can provide those services out of our office. The landscape architecture, as I mentioned, land surveying, any legal type surveys that are needed, those are things that we can all handle within our office. Something that we've talked about in the past is what can we help you with on your treatment side? You know, like I mentioned, in the last 5 years, we've added the water and wastewater treatment side of environmental services. We've got 4 employees that actually work in that area. Over 90 years of experience with those 4 environmental engineers. So, those guys have a lot of experience in water and wastewater treatment, and we feel that we can help you out with your existing facility. Something we've recommended and suggested in the past is an EQ basin. I think that EQ basin, an equalization basin, would help you immensely. We can do a lot of work on your collection system and trying to reduce the amount of I&I. But the reality is you're never going to probably reduce it all. So you're always going to have those spike flows that you get in a major rain event. And so what are we going to do with that wastewater? What are we going to do so that we're not necessarily discharging so much out of compliance? And so I feel that there's something that you can do that is, it'll have a big imprint, but it is something that's relatively easy to do, and that might be to construct an equalization basin. That equalization basin will then take off your peak flows as that's going out to the treatment plant. We provide a splitter box so that as those flows go into that EQ basin, you just bring it back at a real slow rate back into your plant. There's still going to be challenges with that. I think that's something though that is a good thought that we could try to implement for you, as well as other improvements that might be needed. We're not as in depth in your treatment inside the building, inside the plant itself. You've got someone else that are helping with that. But if you wanted us to help you out with that, we'd be glad to help you with that treatment side.
John,
Yeah.
in Hartford, do they have they don't have an SBR plant, right? Are they still pond?
Yeah, they have what we call an aeration. Aeration with tertiary cells, 3 cells on the backside. Actually, it was modeled based on Lennox's original plant here. You guys had an aeration system similar to what we were doing in Hartford about 2 years after you did your first one. Now that was before you did your mechanical plant. you had four
Right,
cells here
right.
that were very similar to what we did in Hartford. But Hartford, when we did that design, we didn't do the design here for your original one 20 years ago or whatever, before the mechanical plant. But the ones in Hartford ended up being much larger. Plus, we had to have polishing ponds on the back side of it. So when we did that design, and that, I'm not familiar with, the quality or, the strength of your waste compared to what I knew in Hartford at that time. So I don't know, I can't really weigh in on what that design was and what the deficiencies or what they might have been. I know you still, at that time, had a lot of peak flows as well. I think your peak flows at that time, flush through your aeration cells fairly quickly, and so therefore you had some issues with that. I think the ethanol plant upstream also had some issues with that. That changed your discharge permit, and I think that's what, probably really dictated that you had to do something different. And that's when you built your mechanical facility. I still think that, obviously those are proven technology. SBRs are proven technology, they work. I think they just gotta be, you just gotta make sure that you're not flushing everything through there too fast. And we feel we got some ideas what we can do to help with that, and really and we've talked about this in the past, and we just feel that, with an equalization basin would help you go a long ways with that. Like I said, your collection system, we can replace all of it. You'll still probably have somebody's sump pump running in there that you don't know about, and so you'll still likely end up with some spikes in your wastewater flows. And those spikes have to be addressed. You can't just ignore them. And so I think with a combination of, collection system and improving that collection system, but also, looking at ways to throttle that flow as it goes through your mechanical facility would certainly help.
Of your four environmental engineers, how much experience do they have with SBR plants?
SBRs, I think Sashi's only done, I think he's only worked on 2 of those. He's got 50 years of experience in mechanical treatment. So he's done anything from an oxidation ditch to extended aeration to SBR to all different types of treatment processes. There's several different types of mechanical systems out there. We're currently doing a different style even for Harrisburg right now that is a proven technology that we're working on that Sashi and Jim Hoosier are working on right now. Those 2 guys one has 40 years or 38 years, and the other one has right at 50 years of experience. And then we got a couple of younger guys, one with 5 years of experience and one with 1 year of experience. So we got a couple of younger guys that are going to be in the field, and they're doing a lot of the work on the backside as far as crunching numbers and things like that. But then we've got our older gentlemen that have served the area. Jim Hoosier used to work with another local firm and has done a lot of work in just this eastern half of South Dakota.
How long has he been with you?
Just over a year now.
Okay.
Just over a year. But Sashi's been with us for over 4 years now, and he's the one with 50 years of experience. He's done, work on some of the largest treatment plants in the nation. So he's worked on different elements of that. Back in the day when we as the United States were building all these treatment facilities, what would happen is a certain firm would land a big project like wastewater treatment, so all these engineers would end up going over and working for the company for 5 or 6 years or 7 years till that project's done, and then they'd end up over here after they had that project. That's where Sashi, he worked with Carollo, some of the largest firms in the nation. And so he's got a lot of good experience with managing those different types of treatment plants. Community involvement, like I mentioned, we get involved with the community. We try to help out. We try to help out the local charities. Your community foundation, we help with that. We've helped with it for several years. Other communities that we represent, we help volunteer at their fun days, and we would love to do that for you guys if we can sometime. It's something that we do as an office for team building, where we can try to work together outside of our work element and try to get a little bit lighter tone, if you know what I mean, so that we all can play together, but then also work together. We feel like we have a very positive attitude in our office and a very positive, work environment. So that work environment being positive, we get a lot of work done. So I think we're a very efficient company. I'm very proud of that. I think we are one of the more efficient companies in the area. And it's because we've got good staff and they work hard. And I feel, you got an outstanding guy here that's working with you guys. Mitch has worked with you for 10 years now and does a great job. I think from what he showed you, I think you can see that, he's been around for a lot of change. And we try to encourage Mitch to grow with you as a community, and I think he's done a great job. Dexter's been involved with your inspection more recently. We've had other young engineers that have been involved with the inspection services, and that ends up being those younger guys, because that's something that you're out here day to day and you're grinding like that. It's something you can't afford to have a more expensive person out on the job. So you end up with our younger staff being our eyes out here. The other thing that I help with is if there's a time when Mitch can't be here on vacation or whatever, that's when if there's a need for me to come in. We had a major rain event when Mitch was gone on vacation. I was upset that he was gone on vacation. But you know what? What needed to happen is we needed to come in and make sure, assess the damage, find out what happened. We had some sewer backup, or the contractor did, and we had to make sure that we knew where that fault was coming from. And so that was something that I helped with, and Dexter helped just evaluate what was really going on there. And we reported back to Jeremy and Nathan so that they truly understood what happened, and so that we didn't have any finger pointing going on when the contractor got to the end of the project. So I also wanted to point out, Mitch, he found this from a Bonnie Carter back in the day, and this is on your handout, if you will. I mean, this is a testament of Mitch's commitment and our commitment to you, the city of Lennox. We really appreciate this opportunity, we really do. And we enjoy working for you guys. This here is a perfect example of a letter that we received, or you received basically, about our work experience with you. And so you guys can take a moment to take a look at that later. We also handed out a couple of packets. They give you a little more in-depth about our company. The larger packet is just probably gives you a few more pictures. The other booklet is a little bit more of a, gets into some of the depth of some of the projects and things like that, and some of the staffing. So take a look at those, but we'd like to open it up to any questions that you guys have. If Mitch or I or Dexter can help you.
That's fine.
I asked as we were going, so.
Yeah, great.
We appreciate the time. I mean, I know it's a cutthroat business. And any kind of project any engineer does, it falls on somebody's head, and typically the engineers have to take the brunt. And it doesn't matter whether someone hit a service or someone, you name it. I mean, you probably get blamed for the weather too, but we appreciate the time and the efforts you put forth. And we just as a city, I know, talking to other council members, are hoping to get some consistency over a longer period of time. We do understand that when things get broken up from leadership, that there are things that hit and miss. We're hoping that obviously a comprehensive plan that's put together from the GIS stuff in the streets, that as this council moves forward, or moves on, or whatever the case, or gets removed from office, they can, there's some consistency in moving through, moving Lennox to a brighter future. So appreciate it.
For me, it's just where we're gonna go from here. And I'm pretty confident in what we got going on right now, that is moving in the right direction. But there's just the questions of me moving forward, having a joint vision. And things are changing. The way that they were done has been morphing, it's been changing. We're starting to look at, my big thing has always been the road, getting our streets planned out, getting what's underneath them good, and having a plan that we can share with our community so they can see a vision that's moving forward. It's not just a year-to-year project thing anymore. It's gonna be a 10-year project. What are we gonna do? What are our costs gonna be? How are we gonna get there? Being able to tell them when we're gonna be doing streets, how we're gonna be doing them, and why we're doing them. That's it. And then looking at the underneath, doing it the most efficient way, looking at sleeving, looking at all the technologies that are available to us, and how we incorporate that to get the best product, the most bang for the least amount of buck. And that's what I want to sell to our community, that's what I want to give to them, that's the vision I see.
Good. We'd love to help you with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out. Moving on to ordinance 601, renewing franchise agreement.
Thank you, Mayor. City of Lennox in the past has executed 2 cable communication franchise agreements for residents and businesses, one with Vast Communications, one with Concord Communications. Those current franchise agreements expire on December 29, 2019. We're extending the franchise agreement with a 10-year addendum. One thing was pointed out before the meeting, in the actual ordinance for both of those, we do say we're extending it by 10 years, but we give the new expiration date of December 29, 2019. Yes, that should be 2029. That should be the correct one. The addendum and the underlying franchise agreements have been reviewed by the city attorney. So what we need to do is we need to approve the first reading for 601 as well as the first reading for 602.
So moved. Motion by Sam,
Second.
second by Billy, and I heard both being incorporated in that, so
Can I ask a question?
yes.
Has the fee amount increased at all? Or is it still the 3%?
It's still at 3%. The franchise fee. Yeah.
Because I thought I read somewhere that the city of Sioux Falls was increasing theirs
They did.
to generate some revenue to do some updates, or
Yeah.
is that something we need to look at doing?
It couldn't hurt to look at it, though. I think we should study what revenue we currently raise off of that. Now, we could certainly have Denise take a look at, what is currently raised on it, if that's a concern.
I mean, it was, we're
It is
looking at
currently
something in
capped as
19.
well.
What?
It is currently capped as well, I think with a new FCC rule from last year. I want to say it's capped at 5%, if I remember right.
Well, I just mean it, you're using fees from 1999, I
Right.
believe I read,
Right.
so, I mean, as with anything, cost of doing business goes up, so.
Sure.
And if we do this ordinance, can we come in and change that number, or are we locked in for the 10 year?
I think we'd be locked in for the 10 years. We do have time if you want, if the council wishes to study this and take a look at what that franchise fee is. It's not something that I've discussed with either Vast or Midco, changing that percentage, but Sioux Falls did pursue it. I can't remember what they ended up at. I want to say it was 3.5.
I have no idea, I just know that.
We have a rep from Vast, correct?
Yes, sir. And I don't want to take much of your time, I know you weren't directing any
Oh,
questions.
I didn't know you were from Vast, otherwise I would
Yes.
have.
No, I'm sorry. I was just wanting to make myself available, I knew you guys were going to do the first reading tonight. My name's Mark Bookout, by the way, and I manage customer operations for the eastern side of the state of South Dakota. Obviously, that includes the city of Lennox, and city of Sioux Falls contemplated raising franchise fees a pretty significant amount. I think they backed off of that kind of before it was over and done. I mean, a franchise fee, to my way of thinking, is just a tax that you pass on to a customer, right? So, if you guys are collecting 3% franchise fee from Bass right now and you make it 5%, I'm gonna pass that extra 2% on to customers, right? So it's a tax, and one thing that I want you guys just to consider is You know, if you're gonna do that, it's a 2% tax increase for customers' video services. And I would ask you to keep in mind that, you know, some of our competitors, now Miko does, you know, if you charge me 5%, you'll charge Miko 5%. That's just kind of the way it works, but people that ended up buying their video from dish providers, or people that end up streaming their video, that don't buy video from myself or Miko, they don't pay that tax period, right? So, you know, I think over the years, you're gonna see fewer and fewer people buying video services from companies like ours, only buying internet. And then, you know, the potential for the city is that your overall franchise fee revenue goes down, especially if you increase the tax on them. So that's all I'm asking, is that you consider that option.
It makes sense.
Still would like to have some numbers.
But, do you put that tax on the internet service or just the video?
Normally, that's a video service only.
Video.
I mean, Nate, would you agree?
Yeah, typically that's gonna be a cable only, it's not something
Yeah,
you're gonna
it's
see.
just the video piece of it, Mr. Ryan.
Like I said, it's just, I saw 1999 is when it was first established, so I didn't know what the trends were, what people did.
Sure. Well,
And we don't know 10 years out, you know, where cable industry will be anymore.
Right.
You know, how many, I haven't had cable for 5-6 years now, you know.
so just my observations being in the industry more lately, you see kind of younger generations getting away from buying video service from companies like mine. And they'll buy internet from me, which is great. I don't make a ton of money on the video product, especially like our industry did 25, 30 years ago. We used to actually make some money on it. Now, most of the money that we collect for video product, we send on the content owners, you know, the channels like Discovery and ESPN and, you know, ABC and NBC and CBS and, you know, all of those companies. If we collect $60 from you for video, we're probably sending $50 or more in checks out to the content owners. So really that franchise fee increase is gonna hit more heavily, based on my observations. This isn't a scientific study, right? But it's gonna be people that are kind of an older demographic. So like me personally, I'm gonna have a TV and I'm gonna buy it from somebody like myself, right? People that are mid-30s and younger, you know, they're gonna look at YouTube, or they're gonna look at Netflix, or they're gonna look at Hulu, or they're gonna look at Vudu, you know, so you're not gonna collect any tax on that. So 2% tax increase is generally gonna hit people my age and older, and I'm mid-40s, right? I can tell you my parents in their 60s, early 70s, they're always gonna buy TV, right? Just because that's what they've done their whole lives. You know, people just don't buy it for people like us, and, you know, or providers like my company.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I need a motion for first reading or just declare it? We're going to declare first reading done, and we'll move on to the next one, City of Lennox Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, Mayor. Comprehensive plan was due for renewal back in 2018. This plan is an official policy document of the city and expresses the city's desires as it relates to current and future land use. It also expresses long-term goals and objectives of the city and guides future policies through those goals and objectives. You'll recall this process began back in 2018, but really stalled in the time in between city administrators. I met with Kristen Bennett, who's here from CCOG, and Kristen helped us plan a reboot of that process. New process involved an extensive survey of the community, including the rural areas outside the municipal boundary. Included the formulation of a task force to guide discussion on the future of that plan. The document that's in front of you tonight is the final draft of that plan. It's got new incorporated information in it from the school district as well on their new student census. We're excited to present a comprehensive plan that's taking into account the needs of the community and the proud work done to engage the community in this plan. We recommend a motion to accept the City of Lennox comprehensive plan.
So moved.
Chadwick, Sam.
One thing to note, I did email the council yesterday, this is being done by resolution, so there is an actual resolution in your packet that was not on there originally on Thursday.
Could you just read that off for us real quick?
Yep.
A resolution adopting a comprehensive plan for the city of Lennox as provided in such SDCL Chapter 11-6, whereas Chapter 11-6 of the South Dakota Codified Law has empowered the Planning Commission and City Council of Lennox to prepare a comprehensive plan for the development of the city and the surrounding area, and whereas this Lennox Planning Commission has developed a comprehensive plan for the future land development of the city of Lennox, has held the required public hearings, and has made recommendations for adoptions of the plan to the city council, and whereas the Lennox City Council has received the recommendation of the Planning Commission and has held the required public hearing, and whereas the adaptation of the comprehensive plan would enhance the responsible development of Lennox and the surrounding area, now therefore be it resolved by the City of Lennox, South Dakota, that the comprehensive plan for the City of Lennox hereby adopted and effective upon 20 days after publication of the adoption, dated this October 28th, day of October 2019. So, motion to approve.
We did
So we've got a motion.
We got a motion and a
sorry.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. All right. United Way Scholarship Program.
Thank you. This scholarship program would help the Lennox kids in need pay for recreational programs that are offered here in Lennox. And so it doesn't cost anything to actually do it, so we just gather our information, and we did talk to the Park and Rec Board, and they are in favor of it. So we're just bringing it to the council for approval, to add that program to our recreation.
From what we can tell, we did participate in this program last year, though I don't believe we've actually used it.
Right.
So there may have been a disconnect between City Hall and Park and Rec Board on what the procedures are for that. We had the discussion at the last meeting about that.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Chad Ryder.
Second.
Seconded by Jackson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All in disagreement, nay. Motion carries 6-0. All right, that moves us on to resolution 2019-10-28-01 requiring compliance with the Lennox revised municipal ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. As background, the City of Lennox has attempted to work with several property owners this summer with regard to the condition of their sidewalks. We received multiple complaints about condition of several sidewalks throughout town this year. In many cases, conversations with those property owners have proved fruitful, yielding plans to repair or replace as needed in 2019 or early 2020. However, 2 properties have not communicated at all, despite repeated attempts to spur action on their part. This resolution will be published in the newspaper and will be hand-delivered to each property and posted on the premises. If the owners of these properties do not take action by November 15, 2019, the city will contact a local contractor to arrange for the work to be completed. The cost of such work will be assessed against the property owner on the following year's taxes. So we recommend a motion to approve resolution 2019-10-28-01.
So moved. Sam?
Second.
Seconded by Billy. Discussion?
And I think this is something that, this is where we get, this is what we're gonna do. This has to be done. Like, I think it's a safety issue. We got sidewalks that are just a mess, and until we start putting people's feet to the fire, and we're gonna get these, just, well, why are you starting here? Well, we gotta start somewhere. And, well, what about them down, yeah, we'll go check it out, you know, and that's kinda how this process starts. And so, I'm glad we're finally getting to this stage of this,
Well, shouldn't we
of the
have,
sidewalk
don't we
issue.
have a report somewhere? Didn't we hire those,
Mitch,
Summer help.
Yeah.
Summer kids.
So we should have a report of all problem areas. So,
Mitch, you were involved with that.
We've got a map of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a map of.
so I mean, and these are just the people that haven't complied, right?
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Anything exec? Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Brock, several people took one. I'll go with Chad right
I didn't say anything.
now. Didn't you?
For once.
For once, then go with Chad. All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Aye. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
So I sent you the.
Yeah, so we'll get that published.
I'll send you watermark copy.
Perfect.
I'll send it on in a bit, so that you can, they can have the, signed copies of the resolution, send me that, and also the application. We just keep it up, a copy in our office. And then the next section, we were, and it says item jurisdiction, and filed with the registrar.
Beaver wants me to go to Beersford and keep.
Yeah, so this, I can be in touch with you.
Perfect. We'll just take it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I saw it, I just didn't get to it.
You know?
His check was there.
Yeah.
It was mentioned he was police on duty.
These are wrong.
Right.
And I should take it as a city, Wayne and I talked. I got no, there's no help there.
Yeah. Greg Conlon.
I think.
No,
He must have just seemed like he wanted to.
On the touchdowns and kick winners, did you see that? And their truck is like that.
You hear about this?
Yeah, he hit a trailer or something. I talked to Calvin.
Seriously, we do another time. I mean, it's been 45 years.